to our third meeting for our First District RESA Parents Collaborative. The topic today is talking to your child about their disability. Feel free as we go along to ask questions, share resources, but there will be a spot at the end for you to share any resources that you know about that could help families with this topic. This is our agenda for the hour. We'll have a quick welcome with our introductions and check-in. The bulk of the session is on the topic of talking to your child about their disability. We'll share some resources, and then at the end, I have just a few upcoming events and information about the evaluation. I wanted to start off with this quote because it felt especially relevant to the topic, and it's from Robert Hensel, who is a famous advocate for people with disabilities and also a Guinness Book of World Records holder. And it's, "My disability has opened my eyes to see my true abilities." And he speaks a lot on how he gained a lot of self-acceptance and strength as he learned more about his disability and understood his challenges. All right, so here we go. If you could please, we've got a really small group. And I actually know both of you. If you just want to remind us of the district that you're in, and then share an activity or hobby that brings you joy and relaxation. I will say that mine is gardening. I really love to garden. I didn't find as much time to do it this past year as I wanted. It's a hobby that I developed during COVID when we were home a lot more. And now that I'm back in the swing of things at work full time, I've neglected it a little bit, but I'm going to try and embrace it more this year, starting in the spring. And whoever wants to go next can go.
My name is Leah Brockington. I am the Family Support Coordinator for Pineland, which covers 8 counties. I'm in District Region 5, and we cover family support for Appling, Bullock, Candler, Evans, Jeff Davis, Wayne, and Tatnall and Toombs counties. And an activity that brings me joy would be just being outside with my son, whatever that may be.
Great, thanks.
Christina Holland. I'm in the Candler County District. The parent mentor over here. Something that brings me joy is making macaron cookies on the side, and it's a little bit of a stress relief. And Jared gets to hop in and join in, and he likes to crack the eggs with me, and it's pretty joyful.
Didn't you bring us some at one of the meetings?
I did. I'm gonna make some tonight for tomorrow too.
They were
good. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who bake for stress relief, and that's just stress inducing to me. I'm Shelley Woodward. I am program specialist with Southeast GLRS, and something that brings me joy is anything music related. I love to go see bands and live music, and I don't really care what you're playing. If it's good, I'd like to hear it.
I like that too.
You do a lot of dancing, Shelley?
Well, I do a really good hippie shake, but that's about it.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and welcome again. In this next section, I'm going to share some information and ideas about talking to your child about their disability. I want you to keep in mind, though, that you really are the expert on your child and you know them best. And so keeping that in mind helps you determine where they are developmentally and emotionally so that you can have conversations that they can handle and they can understand. And that it's really not going to be like a one and done type thing. It's an ongoing process as our children get older, they're more able to understand, the different things, and they start to notice those differences. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. In the slides that follow, we're going to talk about when, why, and how to talk to your child about their disability. Having empowering conversations with your child is really important for fostering self-esteem and resilience. It involves open communication, validating their experiences, and emphasizing their strengths and abilities. By creating a supportive environment, you can help your child embrace their uniqueness and navigate the challenges with more confidence. When should you have the conversation with your child? There are lots of factors to consider. It's important to remember to keep it age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. We can recognize some signs that our child is ready and emphasize that ongoing nature that I was talking about the conversation, that it's not something that you're going to address once and you're finished. It's something to kind of build on so that the child has time to understand and process. When your child begins to ask questions or shows curiosity about their disability, that's usually a really good time to start talking. Keeping the conversation simple and easy to understand and adjusting it as they grow. In other words, tailoring the conversation to their age and developmental level, and making sure to keep that dialogue going as they get older. A lot of the time, self-esteem starts to be a bigger issue for children as they get into those older years. So if they know a little bit about their disability going in, that can help. And then adapting to their evolving understanding and needs. Why is it important to discuss disability? Speaking openly about their disability helps children develop self-awareness, acceptance, and a better self-image. It can help build resilience, equipping them with the tools to navigate those challenges and promote overall emotional well-being. Many children begin to recognize that they're different. And sometimes other children will also begin to recognize those differences as well. And so if parents don't tell their child about their disability, it can be very possible that someone else will, or that the child will overhear others in conversation about them. So parents talking to their child about the disability will allow that information to be provided in a more nurturing and supportive way, allowing for that open communication, fostering trust, and ensuring that your child receives accurate information that's tailored to their needs and understanding. Of course, we can't really prevent other people from saying things. There are confidentiality rules, so it's typically not going to be a teacher, but if other kids notice or the child hears you talking to your spouse or anything, it could open up that conversation. They may come to you with questions, but it just might be easier to have the conversation with them so they hear it from you first. There are many benefits to starting to have that conversation early on, like I just said, so they don't hear it somewhere else first. But early discussions will help establish that foundation for open communication and understanding with your child. It can help reduce stigma so that they understand that having a disability is okay and just one part of who they are. It helps create that inclusive environment, and doing it early on helps establish that supportive family environment where your child will come to you first when they have questions about their disability. How do you approach the conversation with your child? We talked about recognizing when your child is ready because they're beginning to notice or even ask about their differences. Timing matters. It can be helpful to choose a quiet, comfortable space for the conversation. If your child comes to you, make sure that you have the time and space to discuss it in a place that feels safe for them, which might mean you need to pause and say, let's talk about this after school or at dinner, because perhaps in the car ride or line right before they're about to go into the school just might not be the best place to have that conversation with them. Using clear, age-appropriate language, just like you talk to them about anything else. So you know how to talk to your child in a way that they understand. You want to have that conversation with them in the same way, and encourage your child to ask questions and share their feelings and their experiences. When they start to ask about it, ask why. What have you noticed? Why is this what you're ready to talk about or what you want to talk about? Just so you know if they did hear something from someone else, or maybe they've just started to notice that there's a subject in school that's really hard for them, or they wonder why they're being pulled from a particular class at a certain time. Knowing that why should help you kind of guide that conversation for them. And just remember, you don't have to have the entire conversation at once. You can let their questions guide you. Focus on what your child can do rather than their limitations. Help identify and celebrate their unique talents, fostering a positive self-image. Everyone has strengths and challenges, including those of us without identified disabilities. So it's important to recognize and build on our strengths and utilize those strengths to help compensate for our areas of weakness. It might be helpful to model by discussing your own challenges and strengths, and then help your child emphasize their own. Talking through something like, I get so frustrated with myself in the morning when I'm already running late and then I can't find my keys. I need to be better about hanging them on the hook by the door. That is a way that your child sees that you're expressing your feelings, that you sometimes make mistakes too, but you're thinking about a way that you can help that challenge, versus using it as an excuse. Another one might be just something like, I have a hard time remembering directions. I'm so glad that I have GPS to assist me with that. Using tools helps me be more successful and get where I need to be on time without getting lost. When you talk to your child just about the everyday tools that we use, they may be more open to using tools like assistive technology, or allowing for assistance from their teacher if they're more reluctant to have their accommodations. Just pointing out that we all use those things, and that's what we need to help us be successful. That might help them, understand that everyone needs support sometimes, especially if we pair it by really emphasizing those strengths and abilities. Also, anticipate any common questions that your child may have and be prepared with honest, age-appropriate answers. Try to be truthful, but also make your answers something that your child can understand. We don't want to hide the disability. We don't want to refrain from being honest with them, because again, they know if they're asking, they know that there is something different, and we don't want them to assume it's something worse than the truth. And we just need them to know exactly, what that is. But it may or may not be the right time to label the disability. Some children may understand when you tell them they have autism or dyslexia, but for others, it might be more appropriate to say, you have challenges with reading or writing, or helping them understand their characteristics, such as any sensory triggers, or that they have trouble holding conversations. You can connect the challenges with the supports they receive, and then have the conversation about the label itself at a different time. For example, you may explain to them that they have a challenge with conversations. That's why they meet with Miss Davis for speech. Or, reading is harder for you. That's why your class has 2 teachers. That's a good start for having those conversations. And then you can build on that over time. Also, let your child know it's okay not to have all the answers, and you're there to support them. You can also let them know that you need some time to think, research, ask a teacher, ask their doctor if they ask you something that you're not exactly sure how to answer right away. This just communicates to them that no one person has all the answers, and it's important to remind them that every person with a disability is different. And just because they hear something or they read something about their disability doesn't mean it necessarily applies to them. And I'll just use a quick kind of personal experience. I was working with a child on the autism spectrum, and his parents were really concerned about labeling it with the term autism yet, because he was Googling lots of things and he had a tendency to reenact and act out things that he watched in videos. And his parents were just afraid he was going to pick up on some more severe type of self-stimulatory behaviors or use autism as an excuse for some of the things that he was doing or choosing not to do. And so they chose to wait and kind of have many conversations about why things were challenging, why he was getting the support he had. And then they worked towards, telling him more about autism itself as they felt like he was ready, because they were just a little concerned that he was just going to Google it, start watching videos, and it might become one of his perseverative interests. It's also important to involve support systems, engage family, friends, educators, your own family members in creating that supportive environment. Collaborate with professionals such as therapists, school counselors, doctors to provide that comprehensive support, and make sure the child understands that they have support systems they can go to. There may be things that you're not the expert on or things that they feel like you're not the person they want to talk to about. So help them understand who are some solid examples of adults that they might ask. So if it's something school related, then they know which educators would be a good person to talk to about that. So that's just something really helpful. It's helpful for us as adults. It's something to keep in mind for our children. Then empower your child to express their needs and preferences, encouraging independence and self-advocacy. Teaching self-advocacy skills can help promote a sense of control over their own narrative. And one of the ways that we can help work on self-advocacy skills is through student-led IEPs. They're one effective strategy for teaching your child about their disability and helping them gain self-advocacy and self-determination skills. I know we have a small group, but just by a show of hands, how many of you have participated in student-led IEPs with your own child, or you're in a district where this is common practice? So at least one, that's great. If not, it's something you might consider asking your child's IEP team at school about. The acronym commonly used in the state for this is ASPIRE, but whether or not your district has committed to the ASPIRE program, student-led IEPs can happen. Some of the reasons to include students in the process is to provide that opportunity for the child to make important decisions, to help teach them important life skills, encourage independence, and encourage continued family involvement and input. If the child is going to be present in the meeting, most likely parents want to be a part of that as well and to hear their child's point of view. This graphic just explains just a little more about students' participation in their IEPs. They can be involved in the planning or in the meeting itself. What role the child plays will depend on their age, their needs, and their abilities. Some teachers or parents interview the child beforehand, asking questions about what the child likes and dislikes, what they feel like they're good at, what they feel like is difficult or hard for them, and what they believe would help them be more successful at school. This very valuable input is included in the actual writing of the IEP. So a child is just one of those information sources that we're putting together when we're including the IEP. And that's so important because the plan is about the child. So their input is so valuable. Other students will attend their meeting to learn more about the disability and their educational plan. That might be too much for your child, so it's okay to start smaller. They could come into the meeting and introduce themselves, introduce everyone on the team that works with them, and then they could go back to class. And then the next year, they may stay a little longer. Remember, it's an ongoing process that can go from kindergarten through 12th grade. Some districts even start with pre-K, believe it or not. And if your school has not used this approach with you previously, it's okay to ask your child's teacher about it. It does require some planning and preparation. And it may not be the way that you want to go yet, but it's something to consider no matter where your child is developmentally or how old they are, because there are just different ways that they can be involved in the process. So if you don't feel like your child is ready to sit through a meeting or that they wouldn't get valuable input or information from that meeting, think about ways that they could be more involved in the planning so that their interests and their wishes and their needs are incorporated into the plan itself. Students who are involved in their IEP are more likely to work towards accomplishing their goals. Before we can work towards a goal, we should know what it is. They're more likely to advocate for themselves in class because they know what accommodations they're entitled to. They know what services they have and why they have them. They're more likely to be invested in their learning and educational progress because their input has been taken into account throughout the process, and they're more likely to understand the role that related services play to support their success. I previously worked with students who were really reluctant to go with the speech therapist, or really reluctant to go with the occupational therapist, or reluctant to be pulled out of class to take their test because they didn't want to appear different. And that's really understandable. But being a part of their meeting helps them understand why. And so that will hopefully increase their willingness to engage and participate because they understand the why behind it. And if you want more information on student-led IEPs, you can definitely include that when we send out the evaluation, because that's something we can share. We've got lots of resources. And before I go into the other resources, this is just a summary of what we've discussed. Remember, don't avoid the subject of disability. Be factual about the disability when speaking to the child. Try to keep age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate language when we're teaching our children about the disability. It's important to periodically remind them that it's okay to talk about the disability. Emphasize their strengths, help make sure they have a network, and then consider involving your child in the IEP process. And in this section, I'm just going to share a few resources that might help your family navigate the topic. And then if you have any others, feel free to share by either unmuting or putting them in the chat box. And I'll make sure when I send out these slides, you'll also get those resources. it's important to provide students with diverse reading materials. Children want to see themselves in the stories that they read. They need to be able to relate to the characters in order to better connect with the story. And when children can personally relate to a character, it provides a sense of belonging and familiarity. So here I provided 2 lists of books for kids that have lots of disability representation in them. And you'll receive the slides and can explore the resources in the links. But I'll just go to one and show you. The first is from New York Public Library, and the second is from PBS. And so both links just contain a list of books with a blurb, and the blurb will tell you a little bit about the disability that the child has. So I think it's good to do a variety because disability awareness overall is important. But if you would like to start with specific books that are related to your child's disability, you can go through and find those. This is an example here. It's Moses Goes to a Concert, and it has to do with characters who are deaf and how they can feel the vibrations and they enjoy the concert because of the percussion, even though they're not able to hear the music like people who are hearing. But there's just tons and tons of stories. They also include grade bands, starting with lower grades and going up to middle and high school. It might also be helpful to seek out media where disability representation is present, even if your child is not ready to talk about their own disability. It is healthy and beneficial for them to see disability representation in the world around them. This will help prepare them and might help open the door for having conversations about themselves. I've included 3 clips available here, and when you get the slides, you can just click on it and it takes you right to the video. But we have a clip from Paw Patrol that features a character who uses a wheelchair. We also have a clip from Llama Llama, which features a character with limb differences, and Sesame Street featuring a character with autism. And these are only 3 of many programs out there that are doing their part to expand disability awareness and acceptance. It's really a wonderful time for these types of resources. You're also going to receive the links to some additional articles and resources. I'm Determined is a fantastic website that provides a parent plan path to success, and it includes videos, tip sheets, just lots of information. The Pacer Center also provides information for parents, and I've included one article here that's really great about teaching your child to be a good self-advocate. And also, I've included some resources for talking to your child or your other children about their sibling with a disability, as that can also be a challenging subject to navigate. Does anyone in the meeting have any additional resources that they would like to share? If so, you can put it in the chat box, you can unmute, or you can send it to me and I will share them out with all of our participants. All right, well, when you get the slides, all of these resources are hyperlinked, and I want to encourage you to check them out. And now you will have some to share with families who are struggling in this area as well. Right, and in the last section, I'm going to share some information about some upcoming events and our evaluation. This is small, but our next Parents Collaborative meeting will be on April 15th at noon. It will be virtual. I will send you these so you'll have the link to register if you haven't. I will also send out information about the topic. I'm going to get that topic together pretty soon. I'd like to hold off until I get the feedback from the session before, in case you have any questions or topics that are of interest, then I can incorporate those into the future meeting. I'm also providing you with some registration information for some upcoming webinars that are provided by Parent to Parent of Georgia. The first is on February 7th, and it is called Where Do We Go From Here? Preparing for Transition from High School. We also have one called All by Myself, Teaching Self-Help Skills for Independence in Young Children on February 23rd. There is the big idea. What's the big idea behind inclusion? It talks about IDEA and the focus on inclusion in the school setting. And then finally, understanding the adult guardianship process in Georgia on March 12th. So these kind of are appropriate for students at various ages. So you can attend the ones that are relevant to you or share them with others that might be interested. And that's it for me. So thanks so much for attending. Please make sure to check your email for the evaluation form, because providing us with that feedback will allow us to better plan for future sessions. And I will stay on in case any of you just have any questions, comments, anything at all that you need.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And once we receive the recording, we will send it out to all of you, as well as anyone else who registered but then was unable to attend.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.